Hello, 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 and welcome to this Talkback episode of the Bad Spot Public Access series. My name is Fiona, and you might recognize me, as the producer, or one of the producers of this amazing series we've had on the Bad Spot. I use she, her pronouns, and just to give a quick visual description, I'm looking fabulous with my new branded Hawaiian shirt that my partner got me as part of his work. So, Jason, you'll be delighted to know that this one is a Carver Pump one that says "Built for Purpose" on it, on various places. Horrific. But it goes well with my Blamarama red t-shirt on there. And yeah, I'm delighted to be here. We'll go round in order just to quickly introduce ourselves. We'll go for Jason, then Jess, then Matt, and then finishing with Wren. And then we'll dive right into the questions we've had from patrons. So, Jason, quickly introduce yourself. I mean, who are you?
I'm Jason Cordova. I am the creator of Public Access, among other things I do in the tabletop role-playing game space. I was the keeper for this campaign. If you are somehow here, having not watched the campaign, you really ought to go do that. It's a really, really good campaign. My pronouns are, any pronoun is fine, actually. And I am a 48-year-old man with dark hair, and I am wearing a hooded pullover that is black but has a neon orange and blue Southwest print.
Love it. Thank you very much. Jess, please.
Hello, hi. I am Jess Jewell, any pronouns. I played Nina Powers, she, her, in this campaign, which again, if you've not watched it, very odd that you've even watched to this point of the video, but I commend your tenacity. I am a femme-presenting Caucasian woman, long black hair, and I'm wearing arguably one of the coolest t-shirts and most amazing in-jokes of this entire campaign, procured by the one and only Wren, which is black, that has the Styx Society logo and a labyrinth layered underneath it, which it has been sat in my wardrobe, and every time I've looked at it, I've been so excited to wear it. So yes, and without any further ado, I will pass it on back, I guess, to Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt. I played G.A.J. Gastineau. I have to remember the name there.
I know what you're doing.
On this run, I use he, him pronouns. I'm a Caucasian male. Look a bit like a substitute geography teacher going through a difficult divorce. If you can kind of picture that. And yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. I do love having these little talkbacks and digging into people's brains to see just what on earth they were thinking for the past 3 months. And yeah, I also am wearing the black, very limited edition Styx Society t-shirt. I'm going to set mine on fire, give it a Viking burial after this is over. It's very limited edition. And yeah, thanks for Wren for sourcing those.
And Wren, finally, please.
Hi, I'm Wren, pronouns they, them. I played Leon Wright, he, they, in this past campaign of Public Access. I am currently wearing a purple beanie, a blue and green flannel. I'm touching the thing so I remember. It's and I am also wearing the Styx Society shirt, printed with the labyrinth beneath. I was very busy in Canva, not sponsored, making this design, because I like to make the things that exist in the world reach our world.
Yeah, well, we might come on to a little bit of that in a moment. But as has been mentioned for everyone, if you are here and you've not seen any of Public Access, please go and do watch it. There's going to be some major spoilers, certainly for the finale of Public Access. And there might also be some passing sort of references to the Between Season 1 as well, because it's our kind of touchstone for this as well. So we might be doing some comparison stuff. Just heads up, so there's going to be some spoilers on those. So, friends, a wonderful, wonderful cast. Let's start at the beginning. So this group has completed now obviously a season of The Between and now Public Access. And I would love to know, how do you as a group feel that Public Access, obviously they're both different games, obviously the same sort of framework, but like, what do you think after playing Public Access it does that The Between doesn't, you see? Because I remember when we did the talkback for The Between, everyone was like, this is amazing, which is obviously great, but now we've done Public Access. What do we feel that it does differently to the Between that it maybe the Between doesn't do? And I'll hand it over to anyone who'd like to go first.
I'll say this much: with 3 players, it's a lot fucking harder. Because the difficulties don't scale per player count, and it was really sad not to have Michelle with us for this campaign, although she did come back for the Lost Transmission for a couple of episodes. But what I would say is, you're spread much more thinly. You end up taking a lot more conditions. You end up turning keys a lot quicker. But ultimately, my biggest takeaway, and I'd be interested to see how everyone else feels about this, is because we were playing real people and drawing a lot on our personal lives and histories whilst doing so, against the Between where you're playing kind of archetypes from literature, I felt that Public Access was a way more personal game. That's my overriding takeaway.
Interesting.
I'll jump in and say the thing that I think hit me the hardest was the removal of the timed elements, which meant that we could have mysteries maybe just sort of sat in the back, and not that we didn't need to focus on something because it would time out, because we'd lose it to the mastermind or anything like that. It was very much you were able to take a lot of stuff at your own pace. We could go back and do Zagreus over and over and over and over again, and we could turn as many keys as we needed to solve it. And it was very much the priority that we placed on it instead of what the game placed on us. So that was a really nice sort of turn around for it, and the main difference I found between them in the way that we interacted with the mysteries.
I think for me it was the fact that we all had the same keys. So it in the Between, the players, everything is very structured based on what playbook you're choosing. But with this, because again, we're all regular people and we've all had a similar experience, but then we get to divulge it very differently. It was just interesting seeing what people come up with and how we could torture our characters worse than each other every time a key came up. So that's what I found really interesting, just knowing that we all had the same things to do and knowing that we were all going to do it very differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Like, obviously, as the creator of both games, I have my design intent, and it's interesting to hear everyone kind of share those thoughts. One thing I will say about, to your point, Matt, is Public Access, particularly this new version of Public Access, is just always a higher pressure game or it's like it feels harder. It feels more like the characters could die more easily. That's the case always, no matter how many characters you have. 3 probably does make it a little bit more like, it's probably like feels like slightly more acute, I would say. But that also has to do with the fact that these are like real people. Ostensibly they're like just regular people, whereas in the Between, the characters are basically street level superheroes, right? Like they are very effective and very capable and good at what they do. And so that does like make a really different kind of feel between the two of them. And it's interesting because you get to kind of tell like a much more like kind of grounded and really personal and emotional story, I think, in Public Access than you do in the Between. But in the Between, you get to do that kind of like, I'm gonna sit and marinate in the sort of gothic grandeur of what we're doing here, right? So it's a different thing. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
because I do get to be the audience for like, roughly half the time. So
I think because Wren said a really interesting comment in the final Stars and Wishes about how the Between, it felt like a sad ending, like things were happening, and then Public Access on the other hand felt like a victory because everything was desperate, and it did feel like we're fighting against the Great Hungers, we're getting to the end. And and as you said, like every dice roll, I mean, shout out to Wren's infamous bad rolling. Every time we're sort of there going like, what are you doing? This didn't happen before, what's going on? And I think it's that reframing of the characters, like you said, that they're just normal people dealing with the horrors of the world. And so I just thought it was really interesting as a comparison, really. But speaking of keys, so obviously the keys for this actually, as we said, they've all been the same for each of the characters. Someone asked, was it very different approaching them compared to when you players did it in the Between? Was there any keys that stood out for you as a player, like either your own or somebody else's? And like, because a lot of the time, from what I understand, you guys had already planned what you're going to say in each of your keys, which I find wild. I don't do that. I'm someone that doesn't plan. But obviously, I know for this one, obviously we're doing an actual play and stuff like that. But yeah, I just wondered, how did your approach to keys players? Was there a lot of thought that went into it? Like, what was your sort of process?
Mine, compared to the Between, my keys changed dramatically whilst we were playing. Whereas there was some kind of wiggle room in the Between. And I think in terms of like planning them, I don't ever like script them or like write them in any detail. But I think that there's a certain amount of pressure when it comes to the keys, because you want it to be the best possible thing, because that's the time that like, you've got the audience, they're right there looking just at you, and you get to tell your story, and they're finite. You've got like 12 of these throughout the whole game. And I did think about a lot what other people were saying, and it was really interesting having the same keys that you don't have to do in order, knowing that like, oh, we've still got Nina's trauma to come, or we've still got Leon's TV Odyssey introduction to come. And then, I mean, you can see it if you watch the actual playback, like every time someone tells what key they're about to do, everyone kind of just perks up when it's one of the kind of the big ticket ones, because we want to find out those beats. Whereas like with the Between, I didn't even really look at the other playbook masks. I just kind of wanted to experience them completely as an audience, but you know what's coming because it's on your sheet as well. But for me, I think my favorite keys there was the shared key that we did for the key of the occluded king, which was really good. And it was really interesting because I can't remember whose idea it was. It was Wren's idea.
Yeah.
Wren said, hey, why don't we all basically just pick up whoever's, have it a shared dream, and then wherever you leave the king is where we pick up the next prompt. And we basically just roughly figured out, okay, as long as you leave the king at the bottom of the stairs by the throne, but it gets to my key, it's fine. And we're no more planning than that. And that key is really, really good. I really, really like that one. And I think for personal keys, I really loved seeing Leon's brother disappearing into TV Odyssey. And I really loved Nina's TV Odyssey one as well, in the hospital with hello traveler, or whatever it was, the accent. And my favorite key of mine to do was the very last one I did, where we revealed what happened to JJ's mum, which was only a thing I thought of like 2 episodes before that, and then just kind of flip-flopped between whether or not I was going to make that my trauma or something else. So yeah, those are my personal key highlights.
Nice. Thank you.
So I think the way in which keys change public access in comparison to the Between, so you start essentially the session establishing who your character is through a key, through one of those narrations. It's whether you got back from school, I can't remember, I can barely remember how we all introduced or which keys we turned, but the minute we read those keys out, we had an immediate understanding of who the adults were that we had in the room and those direct impacts. And they felt really important at that point in the story, because again, with you Between, you've got your archetypes and you're bouncing off of your interpretation of that. Realistically, you come in with a name and a description. But in this, it was, we all got to hear the other person's sort of backstory or like a formative moment, and then base everything off of that, which I felt changed the entire dynamic of the group off the get-go. It felt far more personal. So again, it's a really lovely way to just kick everything off. And from then, initially I played it like in the between. None of us died. We didn't use all of our keys. It was very much and as the mother, I was spoiled for choice with keys. It was like, I narrate everything all the time because I've got so many body parts. And in this, it was, I think we hit about episode 3 or 4, and we did some maths, and we realized we had gone through so many keys, and we were gonna need to turn keys as we went through the rings. And there was the sudden moment of going, oh God, there's a chance that, and it's sudden again, the stakes were higher. The more keys we were turning, we were going, oh no, all of a sudden strategy came into play. We need to mark the keys of the future before marking the keys of the past, sort of thing, like, and back of, and the panic of trying to figure out a strategy for the keys in that sort of like from episode 3 onwards, and that realization of no, we're not in the between anymore. There's
definitely more talk about who's got advantage, and that dog comes into handy all the time. I saw,
Can the dog help in any situation? Please, absolutely. God. But yeah, it was fascinating to see how that like strategy came into play with those keys as well, and how much harder it got. But yeah, it really added to the tension. Really did.
Was there any key that stood out to you, Jess, or yours or somebody else's?
It was Leon's mum. I think it might have been the traumatic experience one, but it was Leon's mum where he just said, "Can we not do this tonight? Can we not do this tonight?" And I just, your heart breaks a bit because you can only imagine, right? Like, there's so many people who've been in that position. Again, it's so real. It felt so real. So, it was a massive kudos. And then JJ's in his mum and him in the storage container. Again, it was the trauma ones that really, really hammered it home. I think we all found a vein that we all tapped into quite hard and went, yeah, let's go for a ride here. This sounds great.
Weirdly, an interesting point is, and this is something that's very much different to the between. Me and my mum in the storage unit wasn't a key. That was a flashback because we are allowed to talk about our pasts. So when we went into the storage unit, I just threw that in there, and it wasn't actually a key. And then I added it to the keys.
Yes, because we'd all gone into the storage unit, and then you remember.
Because in the between, we're restricted because we can't say anything. But that was the point at which I was like, oh, hang on, I actually can say something that's good.
Yes.
There we go then. In which case, I take it back. None of JJ's keys. I joke. The storyline of JJ and the family, and then becoming the Cinema Verde loving man that he was. It was what it was.
I think with the keys, and again, Malcolm tried his best. I was rolling like crap. I could not help myself. But I think with the keys, again, it's very much like Matt said, the expectation of having it in front of you and knowing what exists, and then just trying to see like, which one is it gonna be? What delicious food am I gonna have to gnaw upon today? Because we were running through all of the keys. It was just like, we'll actually get to see like a whole story form. With the between, it was mostly there, but there's still so much like left to uncover with some characters. But with this, I think we got through all of them pretty much. And so, keys that stood out for me, I know Jason and Matt like behind the scenes plotted it, but when you were narrating how you were an outsider and you unspooled in something inside of my brain snapped. I was like, wait, you step outside of you? What's happening? Everything is already topsy-turvy, and this has just made it so much worse, and I cannot let it go. Because then you brought it back and you did it to us again. You did it to us again. And then with Nina, it was two of them. It was the thread of from the accident with your mother and Janice, and then how you were an outsider among your peers in school after that. I was just like, Jess is a really great narrator. Like with narrative threads, just like revisiting this topic, because I did the opposite of what I did in The Between, in that I really didn't plan what the keys were gonna be. When I was in The Between, I was trying to find a thread beforehand. I was just like, this is what Phoebe's story is. This is what I'm going to tell. I don't know how it's going to come out when it comes out, but this is what it is. When I started with Leon, I did not have a plot clue. I was just like, this is a traumatized individual, and all of us are going to find out what that is as we go along.
Everyone joins the journey. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I enjoyed seeing the narrative threads with JJ's character, with Nina's character, and then finding my own and having it be somewhat fulfilling. So that was really fun.
Nice. Amazing.
Somewhat fulfilling. Somewhat. Give yourself more credit. It was an absolute pleasure to watch. And for all of the stuff with Albert at the end, for that to then come in, to feed into what Leon had become. It was beautiful. It really was. It really, really was. More credit than somewhat, please. Thank you.
I'll say that I'll just throw in that I'm spoiled for choice when it comes to like favorite key narrations, but I have to say my favorite, mostly because of how it kept coming up later in the campaign, has got to be October 17th, 1983, right? Like that was a really important one. And because when that one happened, I made very like active decisions as the keeper at that point. I was like, you know what? I'm going to work this. This is going to become a little bit of a through line for the rest of the campaign, basically. And it also just happened to dovetail nicely thematically with kind of everything everyone was doing, you know? So it was a good one to pick up on. One of the things I find fascinating about the keys, as opposed to the Janus Mask, is that the key narrations all take place when the characters are children.
Yes.
Not when they're not even when they're older children, like they're little children. And I think that's important for lots of different reasons, but there's also this element. When I was designing the game, one of the major things I wanted to accomplish in the game is exploring this like really particular type of horror that is connected to like this idea that as children we remember things differently, and often we incorrectly remember things like from when we were a kid. And there's something, to me, that space between what the kids actually experienced, the way we as adults remember those things, and in the case of public access, how the weird nature of the setting can actually reach in and twist around and change things. There's something really, to me, there's like a lot of terror in that space between what a little kid experiences and then what that little kid later on as an adult remembers. Like that interim, to me, I don't know why, but it's horrifying to me. And I think that that's where a lot of the horror of the game lives, you know? And so I think that makes them a little different in feeling too, because in The Between, these are very self-possessed characters, right? Like they are in full possession of their faculties, and they are, even the ones that are like incredibly fucked up, are usually very good at what they do. And they all have like, they are driven to Hargrave House for a really particular reason. They do what they do for a really particular reason, and we get to see all the major steps of it. And there's no, and there's no real, like, there's no doubt there, you know?
Right.
And I think it's such a different framing. It's a different experience, you know? And I hope that's how it came through in play too. You know?
Yeah, definitely. To move us on a little bit, I do want to talk a bit, like we sort of mentioned the player count for this. And obviously, unfortunately, due to schedules, Michelle couldn't be with us for the whole season. But obviously, that's kind of the big flip we had from like majority of having 4 players in The Between to 3 players. But we were able to get Michelle back. And I wanted to just quickly talk about, obviously, we've got the Odyssey tapes, which we'll talk to in a little bit, but like this lost transmission tape as well. Now, as far as I understand it, that's not in the initial release of of public access, but it is something in the second edition. So I just wanted to talk like what's sort of the purpose of these lost transmission? Is it so that people can like come on for like a one shot and stuff like that, Jason?
They can certainly serve that purpose, as we saw, right? I mean, so lost transmissions were an idea we kind of developed late in the original edition of the Between's life cycle. It was this. They came from this place of wanting to like create more space to explore what Nagoya County is, because the TV Odyssey mystery explores it in a really particular way, but there's clearly a lot more going on, right? And so the lost transmissions were like an opportunity to do that. But also it was this. I did have in mind that once you're done with the TV Odyssey mystery, if you want to, just get the gang back together and play a lost transmission. And it's okay, you can do it, because no matter what happened to them during the TV Odyssey mystery, the lost transmissions mystery is kind of like another timeline or another dimension, so just it doesn't, it's like it's just an excuse to get them back together. And so we had kind of a similar concept in the Sweeps Week style mystery of Brindlewood Bay, which was the Sweeps Week mysteries were like kind of mysteries that took place somewhere other than Brindlewood Bay and could take place outside of the main storyline of the Midwives of the Fragrant Void. And so this was kind of a similar idea. I think what really made it work for as a sort of design project and making it fit into what the game is you just play a different version of your character. So you don't have to like reinvent the wheel in terms of like, making new characters and coming up with new backstories and stuff. It's actually quite fun to imagine what an alternate universe version of Leon or of JJ or whatever, like imagining like an alternate universe version of them is a fun thing to do. It's something lets you get to it quickly and then kind of play out this other story, which importantly is cabined off from the main story. So you can have an ending where everyone leaps into She That Feeds His mouth, and there's like all kinds of like disgusting creatures feeding off of her and all this like just bonkers stuff. You can do that because it doesn't really matter. It's a closed circuit, as it were, in terms of the storytelling. But no, you certainly can use it to have like guest players, right? And that's actually something I'd never even considered before, but it works.
Yeah, well, I obviously worked for our purposes as well, and just to go to the players. How was it to come up with and play an alternate version of yourselves in quite a bizarre, let's face it, a bizarre one-off episode of the public access?
So I'll say it was so much fun. If only because when Nina sort of became a thing, initially I sort of based her off of Julie Powers from the Scott Pilgrim comics, which is where she got her name, and I wanted her to be a bitch. I wanted her to be jaded. I wanted her to be really angry at the world. And the minute I opened my mouth as her, she was just this vulnerable little guy, and I was like, "Oh no, she's more me. It's fine. That's all right. That's who she's gonna be." And so the Lost Transmission gave me a chance then to go, "What if she was a bitch in the 80s?" And that it gives you that sort of opportunity to play with, well, what if the trauma manifested differently? What if there weren't all of the coping mechanisms they'd had back in the day? What if it had changed? What if it was this? And it is that what if element that really lets you twist the key in the lock and go, let's explore. And honestly, seeing everyone else play, JJ as someone unconfident, Leon as just a hapless jock, and to have Michelle come in as the Jerry Lynn we all wanted, knew, and deserved.
Yes,
beautiful. But yeah, it was great additional freedoms to have with the character sort of creation.
Yeah, it was really fun to explore different aspects of, because there are private aspects of your character that you might know that might not get a chance to show up in the game. So for me with Leon, it was very much there are things that Leon might have enjoyed doing if he had another opportunity. I essentially kind of played a Leon adjacent to Leon's brother who was zapped away. And so it's just like, what would that life have looked like? Very different and much more relaxed, apparently.
I don't know. I
So-
feel that Leon did get in a lot of trouble regardless, and just like, I don't know, I'll keep going,
Yeah, but he handled it significantly better.
Yeah, I agree.
I did like the aspect that in multiple universes you're still a friend group.
Yes.
so that is very fun to play with. Like, no matter what, we're still together.
You might not like each other, or you might have some differences, but yeah, you're still stuck together. It makes it easier, I guess, for the facilitator.
I didn't really think too much about what alternate JJ was going to be like until we found out that Michelle would be Geraldine, and I was just like, well, what's the funniest thing we can think of? Well, she was a fucking nightmare to deal with for me in the previous episode, so hey, why don't I have this unrequited love and kind of follow her around like a puppy dog the whole time? And that just worked. And I kind of messaged Michelle beforehand, and I was like, can I just be in love with your character, please? And she was just like, yeah, 100%. And just played that so beautifully. But my kind of outside of the between and public access, I'd played Beach Blanket Body Bag with Jason, now available, a short form CFB game. And like, kind of just feeding off this, like, Jason, that game and the short form CFB games are structured very much like Lost Transmissions, aren't they? They're with shared masks and keys and things.
Yes, and the very like lengthy introduction materials, right? Because you have to kind of like cover a lot more ground to get the story going, but yeah, no, they are very similar. And in fact, I think there's a way that like you could probably take the Lost Transmissions and with very little effort just make them standalone games that have no reference to the rest of public, to TV Odyssey or whatever. You could totally do it. They're the big difference is like Beach Blanket Body Bag and its ilk have like come with new moves, and there's like a longer list of shared branches, but it's pretty close. They have a lot of they're a few chromosomes away from each other, I'd say. Yeah.
Very much related. Speaking of going just back to Odyssey tapes, so we got to see quite a number of them very quickly and early on. I think when we were talking before about turning keys and stuff, I think realizing unlocking the layers, I think people were like, oh no, we've done this through the Odyssey tapes. Hilarious, I think. Again, it's a very generic question, but was there any particular standout favorite bits of the Odyssey tapes? Any tape, I guess, to Jason that we didn't get to check out because it didn't fit with the vibe, or one that you would have liked to have done if we'd had more time?
The one that we didn't get to do that I always really love is the one that I teased at the end at the very, very end of the campaign as a tee up to us eventually playing Pizza Time someday down the road. I have laid the groundwork if it comes to it, but no, because that one it's a tape about Calamity Raccoon, the character of Calamity Raccoon, and Mr. Big Bad, and some of these like kind of Brindleverse like lore characters, right? So that one's a lot of fun. In addition to just being kind of different because it's a cartoon that you're narrating, a really like violent, kind of old-timey cartoon. And so that was a lot of fun. That would have been a pretty good one to do. There's a lot of them that are just, the funny thing with the tapes is you always have to kind of, as the keeper, you do have a bit of a job in deciding what balance of horror and weird you want to go with, because the tapes kind of fall into two broad categories. The ones that are just like terrifying, and if you found this in someone's home, you'd be like, what are they doing? and then the ones that are just kind of very strange and just have like a strange cosmic strangeness to them, and I always do a mix, but you can probably like choose them in a way to give your campaign like a really particular feel. Same thing with mysteries too. Like you can pick certain mysteries over other mysteries and have like a different type of campaign, I would say.
And yeah, to the players, was there a particular Odyssey tape that stood out for you when you watched it?
I think I speak for the entire table when I say Blamorama was pretty fucking amazing. I think it changed a lot about how we view the game. Not only, and I will shout out the particularly horrendous description of Tammy Lou and the half mouth of teeth, which has stayed with me so viscerally.
Made her way into a new game of mine too.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah, fan
So
favorite.
bad.
Tammy
Yeah.
Lou's a new playbook in the between.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Oh my god! Yeah, immediately. I think when we read the prompts, there's that sort of section, that 5-minute section offline, that everyone either goes grab some water, or in more cases than not, we all scramble behind the scenes and go, okay, how best can I tie this in, and what would be the worst thing? And all of the children we came up with, all of their descriptions were horrifying. We tortured those kids. We tortured them so badly, and it was so much fun. But
It birthed so much because
Yeah.
I think that's where
your
The white
chitinous
bugs.
creature.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Crichton's be- and then the whole game, I was like, oh no, what have I done?
But that was a big turning point, I think, with the way we realized the Odyssey tapes could work for us as well, and a real sort of like pressure release on how weird can we go, how fucked up is allowed. Let's find out. But it was, that's, I think, I'll only say this because Fiona's literally wearing the shirt. Blamorama was maybe a full table favorite.
And I think
but there are many others as well. Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
Oh, Animal Kingdom. Yeah.
Animal Kingdom. As somebody who has trained to be a wrestler, I felt that viscerally in my bones. It was amazing. It's so silly, so stupid, so horrendous at the same time.
I think with obviously Blamorama, I think obviously when we discovered the Great Hungers thing, and I just remember that scene of Elliot playing hot potato, and I'm just like going like, this is wild. And of course, again, we can go on to the mysteries in a second, but I just thought that is so cool that came from this tape, and then it just felt so iconic as a result. And I think as everyone said, it was just everyone instantly latched on going like, oh no, just the increasing escalation of like, no, terribleness. It was great. But Wren or Matt, any Odyssey tape standouts for you guys?
I just want to preface by saying we treated the Odyssey tapes like they were unseens. Like we were still in between mode, and we thought everything. We didn't know we were speedrunning the game. We didn't know we were increasing the layers. Like that's not a thing that we were aware of. Oh my god. Standout tapes. It was Blam 03, everybody Blam. The 3 pillars in
Affirmations.
The payoff of the 3 pillars is quite good, I thought.
So, and I just found it because it wouldn't be the things that you expect that would come back around. And I think the first time that one of the hungers appeared in real life, I was just like, what's happening? And then we had to count how many of these did we how much danger have we cursed ourselves with. A lot. The answer was a lot. But yeah, Affirmations 03 was so funny and weird. I think when we were looking at, like, because we can see in the Keeper the list of some of the tapes that were available, I was so curious about Starlight Kingdom because the Zagreus machine had gone to Starlight Kingdom. I was just like, Starlight Kingdom this, Starlight Kingdom that. What's happening in this place?
Oh, it's a
Tell
mystery
me more.
too. We just didn't do it. Yeah.
So yeah, I was deathly curious about what that would mean, but then we never ended up doing anything with the tape. Yes.
Matt?
Fun fact. I based my thoughts and my description of David Tilbert on a man who goes to my gym. And every time I see him, I'm like, that's David Tilbert. And since we did the tape, I just find myself watching him working out, and I'm thinking to myself, if he does a Russian twist, I'm gonna have to take a picture, and I'm gonna get thrown out of this gym. And then when I'm explaining myself, I'm not going to be allowed to join any gym in the world.
You don't understand. It's a role-playing game thing. It's a role-playing.
Don't understand. So yeah,
I'm going to tell all my YouTube friends about this.
Exactly. I'm just going to say that like Animal Kingdom and the Poetry Slam thing was a real standout because it appeared in an episode. I think it was episode 6 or 5 or 6, where all of us went a bit through the looking glass, and we all, after Jason left the call, we all just kind of stayed on, and we were like, "What the fuck just happened?" Because the whole thing ended. It started with like Nina's really like traumatic keys, and ended with Jason's Jizz Ice Cream song, and Jess pulling her headphones out, going, "Actually, no, I'm done. I can't do this anymore." And also, that reminds me, Jason, you said you had a story about that you would save for the talkback.
Please.
Oh, my story about the song?
Yeah, where that came from.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah. It's, gosh, I feel like maybe I built it up too much.
No, we're ready now. Cool. I'm excited.
No, it's really not that exciting, except to say that the original. So that came from a Monster of the Week mystery that I wrote for my Monster of the Week campaign, and I guess the story, such as it is I first like ran that Monster of the Week mystery, which was about an ice cream called the Dream. It was basically just the same thing, but in Monster of the Week. And we used to play in our public gauntlet games. We used to play like in this like bar restaurant, And so I was like running my game like I normally do, and I get kind of theatrical. I don't even care if I'm in public. I'm just that kind of GM, And I like get into my like dream song, and I'm like really going for it. I'm really going for the dream song, and I'm really like dramatically doing the "come taste the dream, come taste the dream." And by the time I was done, I realized that there were like quite a few people not in our group, like just kind of watching me, like, and listening to me, and I was just like, oh. I didn't have the excuse of this is for my YouTube friends, but
Bloody being taken away, screaming into the void. Yeah, amazing.
But the Dream has been around for ages for me, and like so many things in my games that I publish, it's something I used to run in another game, like 100 years ago. So. But yeah, the Dream, good fun. Everyone loves the Dream.
Yes, everyone, including Leon, really loves the Dream.
Mal loved the Dream, right?
Mal loved the Dream, absolutely, yeah. So another question we've had in is, talking of characters, is, and it's something that you guys have referred to a little bit, is the characters and NPCs in this particular series of public access all feel very fleshed out and real. And so people wanted to know if you had any real world inspiration that you're specifically drawing on from about particular ones, or was it more like a collage of different pieces?
Well, JJ is 2004.
No, I think you said 2024. So
I was a real prick until about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I went to film school and I worked in film for a bit and held a lot of those opinions, and I still do hold those opinions. I'm just less of a knob when relaying them to other people now. And if you do ask me about Hollywood cinema 1967 to 1982, I will bore you with it in much the same way that JJ does everyone else. But I actually found it very easy to pull on just thinking about what I would have been doing at that age, because I'm exactly the age that the Latchkey kids would have been pretty much in 2004. So it was actually easier for me to start at that and then exaggerate like a lot of it.
Sure.
My fun fact for you is that Joe Gastineau is a character name from a movie. obviously it's from a film called Limbo. That character is also called Jumping Joe Gastineau. That's his nickname. And I liked that movie so much when I saw it that I used JJ Gastineau as a nom de plume when I reviewed movies and wrote about them, because when I started reviewing movies for a blog and podcast, I was also working in film, and I was like, oh god, you spend a bit of time on set and you realize, oh, these people might know who I'm talking about, so I will have a pseudonym. Took that pseudonym on and then never worked in film again, and was stuck with it for years. And like I used to have to like register for film festivals as JJ Gastineau, and they'd ask to see my ID, and I'd be like, look, have you seen Limbo by John Sayles? And it's still to this day like my PSN name, and like it's a few things, but that's what I thought I would bring to it. And I think the youthful hubris of that I thought was a fun fit for JJ. And also just I had to make him less of a knob after the first episode, because he was very much what I would have been like entering a social situation I didn't feel particularly comfortable in, just you know trying to be the smartest person in the room even though he's far from it. But like I think between episodes 1 and 2 I was like, okay, well, I need to dial this back now, because they would have thrown me out of the house by now. There's no way I'd have stayed.
Shut the door in front of you, like, no thanks, not today. Yeah.
So in the time that passed between episodes 1 and 2, you can assume that Nina and Leon sanded off JJ's rough edges. So yeah, but that's where I pulled JJ mostly from.
So Nina, I'm a 90s baby, and so I have no touchstones in the 80s really, definitely not in the US 80s. So it was very much what did I love doing growing up, and how can I apply it to, again, you've got that sort of like suggested list of latchkey sort of touchstones, the nostalgia moves that sort of bring you back. The Never-Ending Story is something that we did watch when we were kids, so we had that pretty much instantly, and I can still hear Artax's screams to this day. That I did find like haunting as a kid, so that made sense. But fighting fantasy, I didn't get into like D&D or role-playing games or anything like that until I was like in like my late teens, early 20s. So nothing like that. I met Ian Livingston at a con not long ago, and he seemed pretty cool. Like he was nice. So I figured like fighting fantasy, that would have been something I enjoyed reading a lot as a kid, and I was pretty isolated. So it made sense like that will happen, but I had no major traumatic experiences as a kid, really. There was a lot of like, again, I think I've touched on it in the between, like religion was a big thing in the house growing up, but aside from that, we're all good. So it was very much like how do we transpose anything that I have reference to realistically into playing and reliving these sort of memories of being a child and what I would assume that feels like, looks like. And it's interesting what your mind comes up with. I didn't really have a plan. I had no idea what Nina was going to be. And the 2004 version of her is very much just student Jess. Very awkward, very never saying the right thing. I did at a party, like I think it was my first party I ever went to. I got offered some drugs. And I said, no thank you, but bon appetit. And I think a part of me died that day. Yep. I don't think I ever recovered. But that was it.
Yeah, I'm definitely having secondhand embarrassment for you from that time right now. Yeah.
Thank you. But bon appetit. And so I sort of, when I realized that Nina was going to be a weird little introvert and a weird little like trying so hard to appease everyone else and make sure everyone else is okay, but really not okay themselves, I was like, I've got touchstones for that out the wazoo, no problem, let's go. But everything else was looked up. Everything else, I bought a couple of the fighting fantasy books to read through and flick through and know what I was getting really into. But and they're really good fun. They do hold up. Some of the artwork doesn't, but yeah, it just goes to show even a 90s British baby can play US 80s nonsense. I didn't realize that New Mexico didn't have basements. I didn't realize you guys don't really have basements. I'm so sorry about that. I realized that after somebody.
It's one of the great
commented, and I was
ironies of the game that
Yeah.
basements figure into it so often.
It's just like, oh, I saw like comments about it online, and I was like, okay, I may have done fucked up here, but that's fine because I just
It's
assume all
fictional
American
version.
houses
It's
are
fine.
basements.
Yeah. Mhm.
That was Nina.
It just
Nina
adds to
down
the strangeness.
Yeah. It's like, this is not right. Yeah, Wren?
Leon is anxiety. Again, I am also a 90s baby, so it's very much like, I don't know, the 80s. Also, I grew up on an island, so it's like, I don't have any of these. I watched American television. That's about it. But what Leon is I was very much an introvert. I was very awkward, and I spent a lot of time on my computer. If I was doing anything other than reading fan fiction, maybe I would have learned how to code. But the fabric of Leon is a lot of anxiety, and then I had a supreme love of ARGs and things like that, and alternate reality games. And so it's just like, okay, I have this person who is going to be a little genre savvy and understand that these dangerous things exist and is going to actively try to keep himself alive. And it was very fun to play against people who are just like, we're gonna go and investigate this thing, and be like, I fully respect your decision, but also no, let's like think about this for more than a second, to kind of straight man and pull it back in. Which I sometimes try to just be like a silly goofy guy and just go along with the thing, and then most often I'm just like, but if we think about this for a second,
Yeah, any
like
reasonable thoughts, yes.
if we consider the ramifications of our actions just a little bit.
Was it when the Sun Man or the big man was like, you should go down into the sewers on your own? And you were
Yes.
like, no, thank you. I will be leaving now. No, it's just like,
Yes.
that's my Leon. That's my boy.
Absolutely not.
No, it's just like, oh, so you want me to go? It's like there's the player and the character, and the player is like, I understand that there are secrets to be potentially revealed and information to be gained, and the character is very much like, but I am a human person and I, with all my sensibilities, would not do this, so why should I? And it's like, you're right, let's go home.
Well, especially with all the labyrinth stuff, let's face it. There was the moment where you're
Yeah.
like, I'm free, and Jason was like, nah, give it back to you.
I gave up, honestly. I was just like, I'll never clear the labyrinth, and that's fine.
For NPCs, I have a lot of, almost every character I write has something that I'm referencing, or it has some kind of inspiration to it. So just a few that I'll highlight. The big man, the way I play him at least, is inspired by the character played by M. Emmett Walsh in Blood Simple. This sort of like cowboy hat wearing kind of private eye enforcer guy. He plays his affect in that movie is so fascinating to me, and I've always loved it. And so I take my big man is just like that, but like times 10, like kind of heightened up, or kind of like expanded. Casey Wilcox is based off of every boy I ever made a bad decision with in my rave days. Let's see. There were quite a few of those, I fear. Sheriff Hanscom, in my mind, always looks like Timothy Oliphant in basically everything he's in. So I usually am like pulling from some reference or media thing or memory or something for every character that I write, even if it's just a little tiny thing. There's also a lot of like characters in my games that sort of have different permutations across the games, like we're getting the public access version of this character now or whatever. So that's another thing.
There was a moment where you introduced the big man and you said he's got a sun bolo tie, and I just felt my stomach drop because I was like, it's the man in the sun mask back. But the minute that happened,
exactly.
I was
It's such a big, huge clue, right?
But it was that moment of going, for fuck's sake.
They're back, yeah.
I love my symbols and my recurring motifs for sure.
So let's talk about the finale as well. So there's something I'd never seen before in a public access or just a Gauntlet actual play. I'm sure that you have done it before, Jason, but the idea of getting the majority of the clues for the session from the players themselves.
That's new, yeah.
Was that a deliberate thing? Was that always going to be the plan for this finale? Or,
that's how the new game works, the new edition of the game. So you have this like double pressure. It's like, on the one hand, you might just have enough keys to even live to see the final encounter. They're intentionally kind of under pressure. But then also, but if you can manage to save a couple, it is one of the principal ways you get clues on that final mystery. And so that is part of it. There's also like so in the between, we talked about this earlier, like you won't do every Janus mask prompt in, when you say face Theodora, right? Like, because Flag or Jazad or somebody is waiting in the wings, right? So we're going to see that character more, and we'll get more of their story later. But in public access, we got to get it all right now. So doing the sort of like remaining masks or remaining keys as clues for the final mystery is also a way of like kind of just getting the rest of the story, right? And then taking it and hooking them directly into the story, which I thought worked really well, happily. I was happy that worked out. And so, that was always, that's how the new game works. Yeah.
That's really cool. Because I would guess from the reactions of the players, you didn't know that was going to be the case until you started playing. So to the players, how easy, difficult was it to come up with clues and then do the mystery from literally within the session? How did you guys find that?
The look of shock on our faces was having to make them work as clues. It wasn't that. I mean, it's great that we had 3 clues to start with without having actually done anything. That was fantastic. But then we took a break, I think, and we were just like, oh, Jesus Christ, how are we going to make this work? And we got in our own heads about it, I think, and we were trying to make them work together, and we forgot the cardinal rule of making clues that they can't answer the question by themselves. So I think we were just settled of like, oh, just pick a number, it's fine. So I think I just picked the number football jersey, I think, that JJ wore, that actually turned out to be very coincidentally on point for the final solve of the mystery. But I think that like once you've gone through vulnerable moves or nostalgic moves or done things in the game that allow you to define clues and you become a little better at it, you'll find that second nature. But I think the shock of having to do it and having it for it to be the finale as well was like, oh shit, we need to make these clues good, rather than, and we forgot that we were just trying to make clues first rather than making clues good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because you had that with the Knights of the Bone moves as well, but like you've got 90 minutes or whatever in-game time to solve this, even though the clues were different. But it's that sort of thing like, oh, now there's time pressure. It was like that, but times a billion, because you had to think of the stuff for it as well.
No, it's so terrible to go from like, oh, we're gonna like meander our way through these mysteries and it's fine, and Jason's like, you have 90 real-world minutes. What do you mean?
You all did it though. You did it. Like, you racked them up fast. Yeah.
Sheer panic. I built Nina, all of the moves that Nina took were basically clue farming moves, because I wanted her to be sort of like we start the day off with a clue, and then I can go and find some library, I'll find a clue, she's a librarian, that'll work, blah, blah, blah. The one move that I really struggled with is knowledge is power. I really struggled to use it because I couldn't figure out real world facts that tied in that could then be clues as well. And every time I tried to use it, I just stumbled. Like, I think I tried to tie in like the Codex Gigas, like some lore behind the Codex Gigas at one point, and then I can't remember, some fact about soup probably.
We tried to crowdfund that. Do you remember the Codex Gigas? We were in a break and everyone was like, quickly think of a real world fact about books.
Scouring the Wikipedia page for the Codex Gigas.
It's a very powerful move.
It is so difficult to use, but it was just like, I understand sort of how why it is difficult, but like not having, I guess, the 80s perspective on stuff meant that I'd sort of lost the ability to use that. But it was interesting to sort of try and come up with as many theories for that as possible. But yeah, having to realizing that we'd sort of stumbled onto 7997 as a flip number in that last episode was our saving
49.
9449, that was it, sorry. That was our saving grace. That was absolutely our saving grace. So I think we were completely clueless up until that point, ironically. But yeah, wild.
But then of course, then being thrown sort of like you succeeded, thank God, with an 11 from Matt, and then like, all right, now you get to narrate it, which was such a cool thing for you guys to do. Obviously, like you'd already been good at doing like coming up with a solution, but it felt very natural to see it until Matt right at the end was like using his word of the year of unspooling.
So here's a fun fact about that. Because I unexpectedly rolled very well on that final very high stakes roll, and I had nothing left to bump it. If I'd have fucked it, I'd have been off to the pure white signal. We were all so relieved that we had quote unquote won the campaign that whilst we were in the break talking about how we were going to narrate this tape, I think we were all a bit high on the excitement of it and hadn't really thought about what we were going to do. So about 2 minutes before we went back on, I said, well, we'll do like a live New Year's Eve thing, but like what we'll do is I'll start and I'll just pass it to the next person and you just go with it. And the really fun thing is that everyone did it. But the sinister thing was I was waiting for a moment where everyone had bought in that it was going well. And it was when Leon passed back to me and said, what's going on in La Fresca? And I was like, oh, buddy, I'm sorry. You're not going to find out. Because I had I had the same anxiety about doing it as I had about abandoning Cecily in the between. Because, yes, it's a fun moment, but it's kind of, I'm the main character all of a sudden and I'm going to derail some people's plans. But, like, with this, I was like, this is more about JJ not leaving Elliot behind rather than not going with you guys. And I think that whole tape with the New Year's Eve thing was like so euphoric, and it was so like a party, an end of year party, end of the campaign party, and it wouldn't have felt right to just end it on a high. So sorry guys, I had to unspool. I couldn't help it.
Oh.
It's like I fully respect the decision. In the moment, it was so upsetting. Yeah. Because then Jason said epilogue, and I was like, "Yeah, fuck, we have to keep going."
You should. I think if you watch that moment back, you can see the fury.
Yeah.
On both Wren and my faces, just being like, "What the fuck is he doing?" No.
We've won. I think
we did it. We did it. No, yeah, that was a beautiful moment, brilliant moment. But excellently done.
It felt very cool to watch it happen for that finale. Like I'd never seen it before, as I was saying before. Like Jason just throwing it to the players of like, you figure out the clues, and then work from there. And I just thought it was just really nice to see. And so talking about that, I can imagine that anxiety as a player of like getting it right. But I think that bit of advice of like, just simplest thing works. And you'll make it work, and the dice roll ultimately will decide, and also with the facilitator going like, what about this as well. So I thought, it was just really interesting to see that, and hopefully something that people will take on, have to take on, obviously it's in the new edition, but like it's not just on the keeper to write the whole entry. You obviously got the players' input as well. So because I do want to talk about some of the music that got put in, specifically, as I mentioned at the beginning, Pillow Whispering. Now, I think we've got the musician in the room with us. I don't know if Wren would like to just quickly talk about Pillow Whispering for us, please.
Sure. So I made, for Halloween, I made what was the name of the tape?
I Want My Video Beat.
I Want My Video Beat. And the prompt that I got was for Pillow Whispering, which did not describe the song. It was to describe the environment of the video. And for some reason, my brain wouldn't let it go. It was like, what what's happening in this song? And so I was like, well, I guess it will exist. And so very much borrowing like Lynchian Chris Isaac vibe. Also, I did not watch Twin Peaks until this campaign started. I have since watched Twin Peaks, and it makes sense. But it was very much tying in elements of things that we had experienced, elements of things that I'd believed were to come, and trying to make it sound like a very forlorn, like love song type thing, and then doing a very creepy insert of Jason as the big man telling us about all of the horrors we've yet to face. I like doing that because, again, I like ARGs and like glitched out weird video things and audio, and just making it fun.
You've created so many artifacts, so many like in-world artifacts for the game.
Yes.
Yeah, look at that.
Yes.
Amazing TV Odysseys tape there, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so pillow whispering appears. For anyone, there's some interstitial bits where we see a shot of the chromatic desert, and pillow whispering is a very kind of reverb drenched version of that you'll hear, and I'll play this talk back out with it as well, so if you hang on till the end you'll get to see the full thing.
Amazing. So we're almost out of time, unfortunately, friends. I know we could talk about how amazing we all are and how amazing public access is, but I would love a very quick final thing, like your one big tip or a piece of advice that you give for either playing in or running the public access, and anyone can go, please.
Burn keys to get tapes.
Classic. Done.
You know when Jess said earlier, like, we figured out we were really short of keys. The very next episode, I burned a key just to get a tape.
Yeah, I remember that. That was great.
Don't run into the horror situation. Allow the tension to build and then come back and revisit it with everyone. Because then it's just so much worse. When you do go back, it's so much worse.
I don't do what I did and think about your history. Not that you have to plan it out, you don't have to, but think about it a little bit. And because you have the opportunity to talk about your past, I don't know, maybe do that as well. See if you can find something interesting. I feel like it would have been a very different vibe if we had discussed things. We could have tied things into each other's history. It could have been a different game. You have an opportunity to do a lot of things that we didn't do. You don't have to follow us. Make your own game.
You don't have to speedrun all the tapes.
Don't do that. Don't do that if you want to live.
Jason?
From the keeper side, I would say give some thought to the mysteries and Odyssey tapes that are available to you to present to the players, and think about what kind of overall flavor and tone, or mix of flavor and tones, you want to have. I catered this campaign to have like a real build, right? Like it kind of really builds at the end, right? But it kind of doesn't have to be that way, right? Like you can kind of like structure it a little differently in terms of that, as far as that goes. The other bit of advice is just to listen. Like, I think you serve yourself well as a GM in any game, but particularly for Carve from Brindlewood games, when you're just like paying attention to what the players are saying. You know, there were sometimes like there were things that I intentionally did not take advantage of, like that the players were giving me, like Leon's brother, because in my viewpoint, Leon's brother never existed, right? Because of TV Odyssey, right? So that's like but I was paying attention enough to know that that's how I was going to treat that, right?
Right.
And so just kind of pay attention and kind of look for your like moments as the keeper. I will also say as a tip, you should definitely go get ready for the launch of the public access Kickstarter campaign. This is going to be our proper, for this edition of the game, which we just call, we don't number the editions, it's just the Kickstarter edition, I guess. But it's the one that we played It's that version of the game. The thing I'm most proud of, which I think came through really nicely in this campaign, is that this edition versus the previous edition, TV Odyssey is much more central to the experience.
100%.
And the Odyssey tapes and how the Odyssey tapes connect up to the overall story is much more tight. It was really fun in the other edition, but it felt looser. In this version, we get a nice, tight focus on TV Odyssey as the central thing.
Mhm.
And so I was really, really pleased with that. But the pre-launch page is up now. And so go sign up to be notified when we go live, probably late January.
Amazing. Thank you, my wonderful cast. Thanks for joining us for this talkback for public access, and maybe stick around on the Bad Spot YouTube channel. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll get back together in the new year, right? And we'll maybe have some fun doing something else. I don't know.
All I'll say is that February has a Friday the 13th in it, which might be a key date. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, we'll keep that posted. That's that teaser teased, I think. Thanks, Matt. Thank you so much. We're all going to wave awkwardly until I find the off button. But until then, friends, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Why won't you let me find you? What have I done wrong? Have I done wrong? Lover, I'm howling for a breakthrough. Won't you come along? Been waiting for so long. I miss pillow whispering with you. So precious. Pillow whispering with you. My desire so precious. Pillow whispering with you. My desire so precious. Pillow whispering. Will usher in a new day. Turn and face the sun. When you and I arrive, I love pillow whispering with you. Desire so precious. Pillow whispering with you.
Horrors will spill forth from those tears in the cosmic fabric. Opportunities as well. TV Odyssey will be closer than ever, or at least the doorway to it will be. First the dangers, then the doorway. Do you understand?